The richest man in town laughed at a little girl in a pale blue dress, called her a stray dog. Her father said nothing. He just remembered, and mountains have long memories.
Welcome to Shadow of the West. Subscribe and ring the bell for more legendary tales of love, courage, and the untamed frontier.
The laughter echoed through Morrison's general store like a gunshot. Elias Crane, owner of the Black Rock gold mine, stood near the counter with 3 of his men, his belly shaking as he pointed at the mountain men, holding a pale blue dress against the afternoon light. The dress was simple. Cotton, small white flowers stitched along the hem, the kind of dress a little girl might wear to church on Easter Sunday. And the mountain man holding it had hands like oak roots, cracked and darkened by decades of wilderness living. His beard was long, his coat was patched with animal hide, his boots were wrapped in strips of cloth where the leather had worn through. He smelled of pine smoke and earth, and he stood frozen in place as the richest man in Copper Bluff laughed at him in front of everyone. "Look at this," Crane said, wiping his eyes. "A grizzly trying to buy ribbons and lace. What's the matter, mountain man? You got a lady friend up in those hills? Or maybe you're planning to wear it yourself?" The men behind Crane laughed louder. A woman near the fabric bolts turned away, embarrassed. The shopkeeper, Harold Price, stood behind the counter with his eyes down, saying nothing. The mountain man did not speak. He simply looked at the dress in his hands. Then he looked at the small girl standing beside him. She was maybe 8 years old, thin. Her hair was tangled and unwashed, her coat was 2 sizes too big, and her feet were bare inside worn-out boots, stuffed with straw. She stared at the floor. Her cheeks were red, not from the cold, from shame. "That your daughter?" Crane asked, stepping closer. "Lord have mercy, you brought her down from whatever cave you crawled out of just to embarrass her in public. Look at her. She looks like a stray dog someone forgot to drown." The little girl flinched. Her hand found her father's coat and gripped it tight. The mountain man's jaw tightened, his eyes lifted slowly. He looked at Elias Crane the way a wolf looks at something it could kill but chooses not to. Then he set the dress down gently on the counter. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small leather pouch. He untied the drawstring and poured out a handful of gold dust, real gold, enough to buy 10 dresses. The store went silent. Harold Price stared at the gold. Elias Crane's smile faded just for a moment. Then it returned, crueler than before. "Where'd you steal that?" Crane asked. "You rob one of my claims? You think I don't know every ounce of gold that comes out of these mountains?" The mountain man spoke for the first time. His voice was low and rough, like stones grinding together. "I earned it, every grain." "You earned it," Crane repeated, mocking the words. "A man who lives like an animal earns gold. Tell me another one." The mountain man said nothing. He looked at the shopkeeper. The dress. How much? Harold Price swallowed hard. He glanced at Crane, then back at the gold. $2. For her. He meant the girl. Harold understood. He nodded quickly, wrapped the dress in brown paper, and slid it across the counter. The mountain man took it. He bent down and handed it to his daughter. She looked up at him with wide, wet eyes. She did not smile. She could not. Not here. Not with Elias Crane still watching. But something passed between them, something no amount of money could buy. Crane was not finished. "You think you can just walk in here and pretend you belong?" He stepped closer, blocking the path to the door. "This is my town, my store, my gold in these hills. You're nothing but a squatter, and a thief, and that girl of yours." "Don't," the mountain man said. "One word. Quiet. Final." Crane smiled. "Or what? You'll growl at me? You'll swing those big dirty hands?" He looked back at his men. "Fetch the sheriff. Tell him we've got a thief in the store. Caught him with stolen gold." The mountain man did not move. He placed one hand on his daughter's shoulder and stood still as stone. The girl pressed her face into his coat. She was trembling. Minutes passed. The door opened again. Sheriff Dane Holloway walked in, badge gleaming on his chest. He was Crane's man. Everyone knew it. Crane had bought the election 2 years ago, and Holloway had been collecting favors ever since. "What's the trouble?" Holloway asked, though he already knew. "This man," Crane said, pointing at the mountain man, "is carrying gold dust, claims he earned it. But we both know there's only one place to find gold around here. My mine. My property." Holloway looked at the mountain man, then at the girl, then at the gold dust still on the counter. He sighed like a man who had done this before. "You got papers? Proof of claim?" The mountain man shook his head slowly. "I don't need papers. I pan the rivers. I dig the high country land no one owns." "All land belongs to someone," Crane said, "and around here, that someone is me." Holloway reached for the gold. "I'll need to confiscate this, pending investigation." The mountain man's hand moved fast, not to strike, just to cover the gold. "That's my daughter's future you're touching." The sheriff's hand went to his pistol. "Remove your hand, now." Silence stretched across the room like a wire pulled tight. The little girl looked up. Her voice was small, cracked, barely a whisper. "Papa, please." The mountain man closed his eyes. Then he removed his hand. Holloway swept the gold into his own pouch. "You're free to go for now. But I'd suggest you take your girl back up that mountain and stay there. Copper Bluff doesn't welcome your kind." Crane clapped the sheriff on the shoulder. "Good man." Then he turned to the mountain man with a grin like a blade. "Go on now. Run along, and next time you want to play dress-up with your little urchin, do it somewhere else." The mountain man picked up his daughter. She still held the wrapped dress against her chest. He walked toward the door. Just before he stepped outside, he stopped. He did not turn around, but his voice carried through the store like a winter wind. "You laughed at my daughter." Crane snorted. "That I did. You'll remember this day." Crane laughed again. "I already forgot it." The mountain man walked out into the cold. The snow had begun to fall. He carried his daughter down the wooden sidewalk, past the saloon, past the bank, past the church with its silent bell. People watched from windows. No one helped. No one spoke. That night, Elias Crane sat in his mansion on the hill above the mine. He drank whiskey by the fire and told the story again to his wife, his foreman, and 2 visiting investors from San Francisco. They all laughed. The mountain man became a joke. A punchline, a symbol of everything Crane had risen above. But up in the high country, in a small cabin built into the rock face of a nameless peak, a little girl sat by a candle and looked at the dress her father had bought her. She traced the white flowers with her fingertip, and she asked in a voice still shaking from the shame of that afternoon, "Why do people like him get to hurt people like us?" His hands moved slowly, steadily. His eyes were far away. "They don't," he said. "Not forever." She looked at him. "What are you going to do?" He set down the blade. He looked at her for a long time. Then he said something she would remember for the rest of her life. "I'm going to teach this town what a man is worth." The snow fell harder that night. The wind howled through the pines, and somewhere in the dark, a reckoning began to take shape. 3 weeks passed. Winter deepened. Copper Bluff settled into its rhythm of commerce and cruelty. Elias Crane continued to run his mine, his men, and his town with an iron grip. The sheriff did his bidding. The merchants kept their heads down, and the story of the mountain man and his ragged daughter faded into tavern laughter and forgotten gossip. No one expected to see him again. Then the gold stopped coming. It happened slowly at first. A vein that had been producing for months suddenly went dry. Then another. Then another. Crane sent his engineers into the deepest shafts. They found nothing. The tunnels that had once glittered with promise were now dark and barren. Water seeped through the walls. Timbers groaned under the weight of the mountain. And no matter where they dug, they found only stone. Crane stood at the mouth of the mine on a frozen February morning, his breath rising in white clouds. His foreman, A hard man named Jennings stood beside him with a lantern and a map. "It doesn't make sense," Jennings said. "We followed every survey, every marker. The gold was here. It was right here." "Then find it," Crane said, his voice tight with fury. "We've tried. The men are scared. They're saying the mountain turned on us." "Mountains don't turn on anyone. Men do." Crane grabbed the map and crumpled it in his fist. "Someone's been tampering. Someone's been diverting the seams. Find out who." Because no one understood what was really happening. The mountain man had not left. For 23 years before Elias Crane had ever set foot in this territory, Jonas Harlan had lived in these peaks. He had walked every ridge, mapped every stream, traced every vein of ore that ran like veins in a living body through the rock. He had not come to the mountains to find gold. He had come to escape a world that had taken everything from him: his wife, his home, his name. He had rebuilt himself in silence and solitude, and when his daughter was born in a cabin he built with his own hands, he had vowed to give her a life free of the cruelty he had known. But cruelty had followed him down the mountain that day, and now cruelty would learn a lesson. Jonas had spent those 3 weeks doing what he did best: moving unseen, working in darkness. He knew the water sources that fed the mine. He knew the natural fault lines in the stone. He knew how to reroute a stream with a few well-placed stones. He knew how to collapse a tunnel with nothing but gravity and patience. He did not sabotage. He simply let the mountain take back what had been stolen from it. And the mountain obeyed. By March, Crane's investors had pulled out. The San Francisco men had returned home with empty promises and bitter words. The workers began to leave. The saloon grew quiet. The general store ran low on supplies. And Elias Crane, once the king of Copper Bluff, stood in his empty mansion with nothing but debts and silence. Then Jonas came back down the mountain. He walked into town on a Thursday afternoon. He wore the same patched coat, the same worn boots. But this time he did not carry his daughter. She stayed behind, safe in the cabin, wearing the pale blue dress with white flowers. He had told her he would return before sunset. She had believed him. He walked into the saloon. Every head turned. The room went silent. Jonas stood in the doorway, snow still clinging to his shoulders. He looked at the faces around him. Some he recognized: the shopkeeper, the blacksmith, the barber. Men who had said nothing while Crane humiliated his daughter. Men who had watched and stayed silent. He walked to the bar. He set a single gold coin on the counter. Whiskey. The bartender looked at him, then at the coin. He poured the drink without a word. Jonas drank slowly. Then he set the glass down and turned to face the room. "Where's Crane?" No one answered at first. Then the blacksmith, a man named Dooley, spoke up. "He's at the mine. What's left of it?" He walked out. He found Elias Crane standing alone at the mine entrance. The man looked smaller now. His coat was dusty. His face was unshaven. His eyes were hollow with sleeplessness and loss. Crane saw him coming and straightened up. He tried to muster the old arrogance. You did this? I don't know how, but you." "I didn't do anything," Jonas said. "The mountain did." "Don't give me that. You poisoned my wells. You collapsed my shafts. You ruined me. I redirected a few streams. I let some timbers rot. The rest was gravity." Jonas stepped closer. "You built your fortune on land you never walked, on stone you never touched. You thought you could take whatever you wanted because no one was strong enough to stop you." Crane's hand moved toward his belt, but there was no pistol there. He had stopped carrying 1 week ago, too distracted by his crumbling empire. Jonas did not reach for a weapon. He did not need one. "You laughed at my daughter," he said. "You called her a stray dog. You made her cry in front of strangers. You took her dignity and crushed it under your boot like it was nothing." Crane swallowed hard. "I didn't mean—" "You meant every word, and you enjoyed it, because she was small, because I was poor, because no one in that store would stop you." Jonas stepped closer still, close enough that Crane could smell the pine smoke on him. close enough to see the scars on his hands, close enough to see the cold, unblinking calm in his eyes. "I'm not here to kill you," Jonas said. "That would be too easy. I'm here to let you live with what you've become." Crane's lip trembled. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. You have nothing I want, but you'll stand in this town and watch it forget you. You'll walk past the people you once ruled and see them look through you like glass. You'll beg for work. You'll sleep in barns, and every night when you close your eyes, you'll remember the day you laughed at a little girl in a store, and you'll wonder if that was the moment your life ended." Crane's knees buckled. He fell to the frozen ground. His hands pressed into the snow. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry." Jonas looked down at him. For a long time, he said nothing. Then he spoke. "Sorry doesn't give her back that day. But maybe, if you spend the rest of your life earning it, you'll become a man worth forgiving." He did not look back. By summer, Copper Bluff had changed. Elias Crane had sold his mansion to pay his debts. He worked in the livery stable, shoveling hay and mending harnesses. Some people mocked him. Most ignored him. But a few, a very few, saw something different in his eyes. Something broken open. Something beginning to heal. And up in the mountains, a little girl in a pale blue dress with white flowers ran through the wildflower meadows near her cabin. Her laughter echoed off the cliffs. Her father sat on the porch, whittling a wooden horse, watching her with quiet pride. She stopped running and turned to face him. "Papa, do you think that man ever thinks about us?" Jonas looked at the sky. "I think he does. Every sin, play day. Do you hate him?" He set down the knife. He looked at his daughter. Healthy now, sunburned, strong, free. "No," he said. "I feel sorry for him. He spent his whole life building walls, and he never learned that the only thing worth building is a life someone would miss if you were gone." He closed his eyes and held her. The mountain wind blew soft and warm. The world was quiet, and somewhere below, in a dusty stable, a man who had once laughed at a child was learning what it meant to be nothing, so that one day, perhaps, he could learn what it meant to be something real. Because power without kindness is an empire built on sand, and cruelty, no matter how loud, always echoes back. The ones who laugh the hardest are often the ones who fall the farthest, and the ones who love in silence, who work in shadows, who carry their children through the cold, they are the ones who shape the world.